In a quiet corner of a forgotten village, surrounded by dusty roads and fading hopes, there lived a boy named Umair who barely spoke a word, not because he couldn't but because the world had never given him a reason to. His voice was buried beneath the weight of poverty, the mocking stares of those who called him useless, and the silence of a home that barely had enough to eat. Umair wasn't born mute, he chose silence, a silence filled with observation, hunger, and a fire no one could see. His father was a laborer who came home with cracked hands and broken dreams, and his mother stitched torn clothes for villagers in exchange for grains. Umair walked barefoot to a school that had no benches, no roof, and sometimes no teacher, just a blackboard and dreams drawn in chalk. He sat quietly in the corner, listening, absorbing, while others laughed at his worn-out clothes and his empty lunchbox. But deep inside, Umair was building something. Every night, under a kerosene lamp that flickered like his uncertain future, he studied not just textbooks but the world, inventions, the sky, stories of scientists and thinkers. While others slept, he dreamed wide awake. He started fixing broken radios, watches, even reassembled a torn fan motor with scrap parts he collected from garbage. The villagers called it madness. His classmates ignored him. Even his own family, although loving, urged him to be normal and find some work. But Umair had decided he wouldn't talk until the world gave him a reason. At the age of 14, he built his first makeshift battery from rusted wires, coal powder, and salt water and lit a small bulb in his dark hut. It was a small glow, but for Umair it was a declaration. I exist. At school, he began topping every exam without uttering a word. Teachers finally noticed. One of them, Mr. Abbas, a retired professor turned volunteer, saw the spark in Umair's eyes and took him under his wing. He brought him books on mechanics, electronics, and artificial intelligence. Umair devoured them all. He built a mini projector from scrap lenses and cardboard and used it to teach village kids at night without speaking. His hands and expressions became his voice. One day, during a local science fair, where students from urban schools came with polished models and rehearsed presentations, Umair walked in silently with a wooden box. Everyone laughed until he turned a small crank and the box unfolded into a self-powered water purifier made with bicycle parts and local filters. The judges were stunned. The news spread like wildfire. Silent village boy builds clean water machine. It hit headlines across the country. Invitations came from colleges, tech festivals, and even a national innovation contest. Umair still didn't speak. He believed the world wasn't done watching. At 16, he won a national science medal. At 17, he built a solar-powered study lamp that charged with sunlight and gave free light to 100 homes in nearby villages. Slowly, the media caught on. Interviews were requested, but Umair always nodded or wrote his responses. One day, during a global youth conference in Islamabad, standing on a grand stage in front of thousands, a host asked him a simple question. Why don't you speak? Umair looked up, held the mic, paused, and for the first time his voice trembled into the microphone. Because I was waiting for the world to listen. The crowd fell silent, then roared in thunderous applause. It wasn't just his inventions, it was his silence, his persistence, his spirit. His journey from barefoot schoolboy to silent innovator inspired millions. Offers came from international universities, investors, and NGOs, but Umair chose to stay rooted. He started a foundation to teach tech to underprivileged kids, created a school powered by clean energy, and designed low-cost tools for rural students. The boy who once had no voice gave voice to thousands, and the world, once too loud to hear him, now listened when he spoke, and even more when he didn't. After Umair's voice echoed through the grand auditorium for the first time, the world didn't just notice, it stood still. His sentence, because I was waiting for the world to listen, became a quote printed in newspapers, spoken in conferences, and etched into the hearts of millions. TV channels, tech giants, and world leaders wanted to meet the boy who once fixed fans with junk and now powered villages with sunlight. Yet despite the growing noise around him, Umair stayed grounded, walking through the same dusty roads of his village, refusing luxury offers from abroad. But fame, like fire, brings both light and heat. As Umair's name rose, so did jealousy. Rumors spread that his inventions were fake, that adults secretly worked behind him. Social media tried to break his spirit with edited lies and paid comments. Umair saw it all but didn't say a word. His silence, once his shield, was now misunderstood as arrogance. At home, the pressure grew. His family now lived better thanks to donations and award money, but his parents were overwhelmed. His father couldn't understand why Umair rejected a full scholarship from the US. His mother worried that one day he'd be too far emotionally or physically. But Umair had something else in mind. He wanted to build, not escape. He silently began working on the biggest invention of his life, a portable education kit powered by solar energy, containing preloaded lessons, language packs, AI voice assistants, and a self-updating software using offline data transfer. It was built to educate children who had no school, no internet, not even electricity. He called it UTech, Umair technology. But behind this genius was a boy now facing burnout. Days and nights blurred. He hadn't smiled in months. On one such night, while fixing a bug in his prototype, Umair fainted from exhaustion and fell near the old kerosene lamp that once lit his childhood dreams. His mother rushed him to a local clinic. The doctor said it was mental and physical fatigue. This boy hasn't rested in years. News spread, reporters camped outside, his fans prayed. For 6 days, Umair lay unconscious, and for the first time, the world realized the cost of his silence. When he woke up, his first words weren't about machines or ideas. He whispered to his mother, "Did the children receive light during exams?" She cried. The boy who had given light to thousands had nearly burned out his own. That moment changed something. Umair went public for the first time, sitting on a chair in a simple shalwar kameez, facing dozens of cameras, and this time he spoke. Not just a line, but a story. He talked about fear, silence, poverty, bullying, overwork, and the crushing weight of expectations. He told the world that genius doesn't wear suits or come from cities. Sometimes it walks barefoot in silence. That technology should not just entertain the rich, it should empower the poor. His words hit deeper than any speech ever given by a politician. Donations poured in, governments offered funding, and Umair finally accepted something not luxury but collaboration. He built the Umair Research and Learning Center (URLC), a solar-powered, self-sustaining tech institute in his village that welcomed orphans, girls, disabled children, and tribal youth. It had no fee, only one requirement: the will to learn. Within a year, his students created farming apps for local crops, AI tools in regional languages, and flood warning systems for nearby rivers. Umair became a global icon not just for his inventions but for his leadership, humility, and message. He was invited to TED Talks, the United Nations, and even NASA, but he never left his home for more than a week. One day, a billionaire tech CEO offered Umair a blank check to move to Silicon Valley. Umair smiled and replied, "I don't want to change my world, I want to change the world." That line became the slogan of his movement. Schools across Africa, South Asia, and the Middle East began using UTech kits. He created versions for the blind, for war zones, and for refugee camps. And still, when he wasn't building or speaking, Umair would sit by the same old bench near the village well, where he once fixed broken radios, now in peace, still silent but this time respected. The boy who once never spoke had now spoken louder than anyone ever had. Years passed, but the fire in Umair never faded. Where most geniuses slow down after success, Umair only grew faster, but not in wealth, in impact. His small rural lab became a global innovation hub that welcomed not investors but visionaries. His inventions weren't about speed or luxury, they were born out of struggles he knew too well: broken fans, empty lunchboxes, waterless taps. At just 21, Umair launched Silent Spark, a global movement that empowered quiet kids, introverts, bullied teens, orphans, and rural dreamers to invent and lead. He proved that you didn't have to be loud to be legendary, you just had to burn with purpose. But with global attention came global pressure. He was invited to the World Tech Forum in Tokyo, where world leaders awaited his speech. The boy who once fixed junk by candlelight was now at a place where light itself bowed before him. As he stood on stage, a thunderstorm roared outside and technical equipment failed. The hall lost electricity. Everyone panicked, but Umair didn't. He calmly reached into his small backpack, pulled out a mini solar inverter he had created for flood-prone schools, and powered the stage lights himself. The crowd gasped. Then he looked up and said, "Don't depend on power, be the power." The hall exploded in applause. That single moment, not scripted, not planned, became the most watched tech clip in history. Yet Umair still spent his evenings with the kids back home, eating simple dal roti, helping them code in local languages, teaching robotics with recycled parts. One day, while visiting a